Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Manchester United podcast. I'm your host for this evening, Niall Hannigan, and I have two members of the podcast joining me on the episode this evening, straight after that Chelsea performance. Tom Cairns. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hello, Niall. Hello, Tloua, and hello to everyone that's tuned in to watch United get beat once again for the 18th time in the league this season at the hands of Chelsea, who are in the race for a place in the Champions League like we are, albeit in different circumstances. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show, and Tloua Famuyide. Tloua, how are you getting on this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are?
Good. I mean, like Tom said, another loss. So at this point, I'm so numb that I'm not even upset. I'm just looking forward to the final on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was a tough one this evening, but it is getting a bit numb, these defeats, and definitely not a good thing. But to kind of start off, I suppose I thought the first 10-15 minutes we were actually really, really good. I thought that there was a lot of energy. I liked the team that he put out as well. With Mount, I think I saw a stat at the start as well that it was the first time Mount had played 3 consecutive games in the Premier League for Man United. When that stat came up, I just felt so bad for him. Like, he's had such a horrible time with injuries. But I thought we did look lively at the start. Tom, what did you think?
We started off okay, didn't we? I thought we settled into the game quite nicely, and I don't think Chelsea posed that much of a threat. Apart from when Reece James did that Benjamin Pavard light strike on the edge of the penalty area. And that was Chelsea's closest chance. Other than that, Chelsea didn't really create anything in the first half, whereas we didn't create anything either. It was just that one moment where Maguire got on the end of a half volley. Who was it that put the ball in? I'm trying to remember. Was it Bruno Fernandes who put it in?
Bruno, yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one of the best finishes from a centre-half I've ever seen. It was just a pity that it was ruled out for offside. It was almost like shades of Peter Schmeichel when he scored what would have been a goal at Wimbledon in an FA Cup match, albeit that was disallowed for offside. It was from a set piece. Someone headed it, and Schmeichel, in an offside position, almost sort of like scissor kicked it into the net, but then that was ruled out for offside. For those who haven't seen it, go give it a watch on YouTube, because you'll probably understand where I'm coming from with that.
What I loved about it was such a good finish, and Hoyland was right beside him, and Hoyland was looking at him going, that's how you do it. Okay, I see. That's where I should have been, and that's how you put it in the back of the net. Maguire just wheeled away as if, this is what I do now. I'm a striker, and this is what I do, put the ball in the box and I finish it, but it wasn't to be, Tloua.
Yeah, it's funny because that's the sort of delivery that Hoyland wants every single game. And to see a center back, no less Maguire, score a goal like that, I'm sure Hoyland was just thinking to himself, like, why can't I do something like that? Why can't the balls come into me like that? But I'll talk about Hoyland later. I feel like there's so much to talk about, but I agree. I echo both of what you guys were saying. I thought the first half we were the better team. It wasn't a great performance by any means because we didn't create a whole lot, like Tom said, but we had actual assertion over the game. Like, Chelsea were kind of sitting back, kind of waiting to see what we would do next instead of going forward and attacking us, which is what they did in the second half. But it was promising, especially seeing that we had basically our full 11 out there.
Yeah,
it was promising to see them actually take control of the game and try to assert some dominance over a good Chelsea team.
The big difference that I saw was, obviously we didn't create that many chances, but we were moving the ball a lot quicker, and we seemed to be just faster all around the pitch in terms of decision making and speed with the ball, speed off the ball. I thought the pressing was quite good, and it did look like they ran out of steam towards the end of the first half, and then I suppose we'll get into the second half, but it was quite poor. But do you take any confidence from that start, Tom, in terms of there seemed to be a bit more about us in the first half at least?
Well, we settled into the game, didn't we? And I think that's what we need to do against Tottenham in the final. If we know we're not going to score in the first half, we just need to keep the likes of Dominic Solanke and co honest, because we don't want to invite any form of pressure heading into the match. But the question is now, do you start Rasmus Hoyland in the final? We know you can't start Chidirobi. I'm surprised Chidirobi didn't even feature this evening, because Rasmus Hoyland was never going to provide anything.
Mm-hmm.
Someone even mentioned on social media, would it be better if you just start Kobe Mainu as a false 9? I don't think it would do any harm. If we know that Rasmus Hoyland isn't going to provide anything, what hope have we got in him? And it's a shame, because I do like Hoyland as a guy, but he's not a Manchester United player. It's as simple as that. And I'd be tempted to just say, just play Kobe Mainu in a false 9 and have two wingers. May have to put Garnacho on the left, even though I'm not a fan of Garnacho playing on the left, and have Ahmed on the right-hand side with Bruno in the 10. A bit like how Ten Hag used to do, or maybe how Amorim used to do when he first joined, before he switched it all up. So Amorim's got a choice to make now. He's got a big decision, and thankfully we didn't come away with too many injuries. I think the consolation from tonight is the fact that Aidan Heaven came on in the second half. Now, with him not being match fit, but with him being a potential option for the Europa League final on Wednesday, he's going to be an option, I think, to maybe even start, because De Ligt is injured. Martinez is injured. Yoro is injured. Evans isn't going to be fit. So your back three is probably going to end up being Lindelof, Maguire, and Heaven, with Matsurawi playing on the right wing back role. If you're going to stick to a back five, it's probably going to be right wing back for Matsurawi and Dorgu left wing back, and then everything else just fills it up for itself. But yeah, Amorim's got a decision to make now. I think what I said also in the chat, in our WhatsApp chat, was that I don't know whether Amorim was afraid that he was going to be on the receiving end of the thrashing, or whether he fielded the side that he knew, or he had an idea as to who he was going to start in the final. That's the way I look at it, compared to how me, Kieran, and I think it was you, Tloua, wasn't it, that we spoke about the other night of who we thought was going to be starting. It was totally different to what we predicted.
Yeah.
I think it is more of the latter, Tom, in terms of this is the team that he's looking to play in that final. If you look around the team, they haven't played together at all. I would say that 11's never been on the pitch before together, in terms of Mount being fit, Ahmad being fit, Luke Shaw being fit, Lindelof coming back from, not from injury, but just from kind of the depths of the bench, I suppose, and actually getting a game time as well. There's a lot to unpack there in terms of what you were going through. I think that would be my opinion on the team. I don't think he was less concerned about the result, but more these guys need to get used to actually playing with each other, because this is the only opportunity you're going to have before I line them out in the pitch. I think the Hoyland conversation, let's just get into it now. Tloua, if you want to kick off, you're the one that mentioned that you wanted to have a few talking points around it, but I think we all know what they're mainly going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I like Hoyland. I really do. I thought when we signed him, I thought he was going to be promising. I knew it would take time, obviously. And he looked good in Ten Hag's system. I think he worked pretty well as a striker who liked to move into channels, run in behind. He was using his pace and his strength really well. But in this system, trying to hold up the ball, he can't do it. I mean, his biggest weaknesses are being exploited in this system. And it's unfortunate because, just like Tom said, he's just not a United player. If we were to change system again, would he be able to adapt? I don't think so. We've already seen him go from Ten Hag's system to this system, and it's just been a complete failure. He looks lost and he looks so disorganized. He looks like he doesn't even know what he wants to do half the time. And I think it was summed up perfectly at some point in the second half when he got the ball at the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And Mason Mount was in acres of space, and Hoyland decides to turn back into the Chelsea defense. And I'm thinking to myself, you've played in the Premier League for how many years now? When do you think you'd ever have that much time at the edge of the box to turn back and get a shot off, And that just shows where we are right now. That shows where he is right now. And I saw some tweets on Twitter. People said it perfectly. Every time the ball gets played to Hoyland, it's almost like he's on the other team. He offers nothing in terms of hold-up play. He can't even link up simple 1-2s with Bruno or Ahmad. When he gets on the ball, he looks like a ghost. And it's just so frustrating because the first half, I thought we played well. The second half, every time the ball got to Hoyland, Tosin was just touch tight. throwing him around like he was nothing, and we lose the ball. Then we're back on the defensive side. Then we win the ball back and try to get it up. We lose it again. And that seems to be the theme of the past like few weeks with Hoyland. He just doesn't know what to do. And going into the final, you know, Tom and I were talking about it the other day. We really thought Cheeto would start in this game to give Hoyland some type of rest, to give him some type. But I see Amarim is trying to provide competition with competition. That's what he said in his post-match presser.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I wanted to give the boys good competition because we're gonna have some great competition in the final." But looking at this, I don't think Hoyland even deserves to be in the squad. I don't think he deserves to travel. If not for the fact that Xerxes is injured, if not for the fact that those are our only two eligible strikers, I don't even think the guy would be in the matchday squad. He's just so off of it right now. And it poses a problem for us because a lot of the times we're looking to Hoyland as like a target man to try and build up the play, and he can't even do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head with especially with the hold up play, because there was so many examples of it, and he wasn't really learning from his mistakes either. Even in the second half, I think he did have the ball, but he took 2 or 3 touches, and then Tosin got his boot in and just kicked it away. It was as if, exactly to your point, do you not think you're going to be under pressure? Like, you're not allowed to take 3-4 touches. You're just not going to get away with it. It would be an interesting, Tom, to see if Manu does start in that false 9 position. I think that would be a really bold decision from Amarim to do that. But on the evidence of tonight and on the evidence of the whole season, Manu, your main role up there with when you have kind of flying number 10s is just hold up play and link play, and Manu's as good as anyone when it comes to that, and definitely producing more than Hoyland.
Would an option be to start Mania in the final in a false 9 and then bring Hoyland on as a substitute in case the match ends up going to extra time and penalties? Because you're obviously going to need Hoyland to take a penalty, won't you?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to think these things ahead as a manager. You've got to know who your penalty takers are potentially going to end up being. So I'd probably expect some changes to be made for the final to know who's going to start and who is going to come off the bench. I'd probably put Manu in the false 9 and then drop him back into a CDM or even an attacking midfielder, because Kieran argued the other day that Manu is more effective as an attacking midfielder than he is a defensive midfielder. He would rather have Fernandes playing in that defensive midfield role, which I could agree with, but Bruno's been our best player this season, who needs to make the difference when it all really matters on this one game in Bilbao that will determine who will get into the Champions League. Everyone needs to be on their A game, full stop. I think if Hoyland is not on his A game in the final, it could be curtains for him as a Manchester United player, because I just don't see him fitting into Amarim's system. And that's going to make for a really, really hard summer for Manchester United in terms of who they're going to get as a striker to play in that 9 position, who's going to be consistent week in, week out in all the competitions that they're going to be playing. Matheus Cunha, as we all know, is a versatile attacking midfielder, but he's not a recognised striker. He's sort of similar to where Xerxes is. We need someone who's an all-out striker who can play in that number 9. I can name many examples. I mean, there's a thing or two with Liam Delap potentially going to Manchester United, which is conceivable, but is he the answer to Manchester United's problems? I'm not 100% sure on that. I would want to go out there and sign Victor Osimhen. I'd maybe consider going out there and try and get... Ooh, who could you go and get who's, would be decent for Ruben Amorim's system in that number 9 role? Any suggestions?
Yeah, that's the issue. I don't think there's a plethora of number 9s out there, to be honest. I've thought about it many a time. The question always comes up as well for Arsenal. Every team needs number 9. Chelsea need number 9. There was a guy starting up front tonight that I hadn't seen before. So yeah, it's just there's not the plethora of what there was in those kind of number 9, so kind of lone striker positions. I suppose Cucurella is probably the only other one that could come to your mind, which is you have the Sporting Lisbon connection there, but is he the answer? Also very unknown.
He's played in England before. You know, he's done it in the Championship for Coventry. Remember,
probably better than United. Yeah. So. Anyway, we'll take a quick break there, and there's plenty more to discuss after this.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body is unique.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
I've mentioned it before, 40% off Bioniq. The lads need to get on this now for the next few days because the league performances have just been so poor and so underwhelming. And somehow they've been able to turn it on for these Europa League matches, which is concerning and also frustrating when you can see that sometimes they do put in good performances. Tloua, that team that went out tonight, do you see any changes to that? Or do you think that that's what's going to happen in a few days' time?
Knowing Amorim, I feel like he's going to field the exact same team just because he likes to stay pretty consistent with his lineups. Rotation is something that he rarely does, I've noticed. And when he does, it's not too drastic. He'll still include some of the first team players in the squad. But I mean, seriously, we have to. If I was Amorim, I'd really be scratching my head on who to start up top. I mean, it's sometimes it really does feel like Hoyland is playing against us, and not just to throw everything on Hoyland because it is a team sport. But at some point, the quality needs to be there, and like you said, they love to show up in Europe, but we need this on the biggest stage. Like Tom said, they need to be on their A game, 100% from the first to the last minute, and. I said this to Tom and Kieran the other day that we're really missing Diogo Dalot. It would be so nice to have Masraoui play as the right side of center back instead of having to rely on Lindelof. But because Dalot is not fit, then we're struggling to fit in players that can actually impact the system that Amorim wants. So I don't think he's going to make a change regarding that part of the defense. Probably Luke Shaw will probably start on the bench. I don't think he's fit enough to play.
You don't think he'll start? No.
I mean, I thought Luke Shaw played well today. I really did. And depending on if certain players can be back in time, I don't think that Luke Shaw is Amorim's first option at left center back. I think it's just another case of we don't really have many players fit, so you have to play here. But at the end of the day, Amorim is the kind of manager that doesn't really make many changes. And if it was up to me, I would start Luke Shaw there. But if it was also up to me, I wouldn't start Hoyland. If it was also up to me, I'd probably start Garnacho and Mount and Bruno and Casemiro. But knowing Amorim, he probably will start Garnacho, just knowing who he is. So it's a tricky one. But I'm hoping to see just a positive lineup. No matter who starts, I'm hoping to see impetus. I'm hoping to see these players actually give their all and try and win the game from the very beginning.
Yeah. I think it is going to be an interesting one. I think, Tom, to your point as well around, playing Manu from the start and then kind of adapting your team as the game goes on. Hoyland's main strength is running in behind, and you're going to have probably the fastest back four from Spurs playing in a few days' time. So that's going to be completely nullified. So maybe throwing in a Kobbie Manu in those little pockets and kind of confuse the defence, I suppose, from a Romero and Van de Ven point of view, might actually benefit United. And I, to be honest, I can see the same four starting in midfield with Ahmad, Mount, Bruno and Casemiro. And I thought it was interesting that you mentioned about kind of playing Mount and Ahmad kind of wide, or those two players in the number 10 wide, so Bruno could kind of come in centrally. And I thought they actually did that out of possession and in possession tonight, where Casemiro kind of looked like the lone defensive midfielder, and did kind of go away from that kind of, I suppose, traditional formation that Amorim would play with two CDMs and two attacking midfielders, where there was a bit of, I suppose, dynamism in there, where Bruno was kind of running around the place. But do you think, Tom, that kind of structure is going to work against Spurs, or do you think we're kind of leaving ourselves open for them to kind of pass through us?
we've got to go with what we know that we're good at.
What's that?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, because we've had a few crazy formations that we've come up with, that maybe didn't quite go the way we wanted to have done, because the manager's always going to side on the tactics and formation and all that. What I was thinking was, instead of having the number 9, what you could do is have your 5 defenders, including your 2 wing backs. Have you single number 6, most likely going to be Casemiro, and then have your 2 attacking midfielders and your 2 wingers. Sort of like it's almost like a 5-1-4, if that makes sense. But with
No striker.
No striker.
Sure.
No.
Right.
To be honest with you, if you haven't got a recognised striker that can put it in week out, I wouldn't mind if Amran tried something different. Because you know that Fernandes is consistent enough. You know that Mount can do something. And I know Mount maybe didn't have the best of games, but at least he tried to make something happen.
I agree.
Yeah. Garnacho, for me, we know isn't that great on the left-hand side, on the left wing, but we don't have any other options either. But maybe that could be an option for him to play as a left winger instead of as a left attacking midfielder. And then you've obviously got Ahmed, who can play on that right-hand side, and we know how effective he is on that right-hand side. And I think Ahmed is the kind of player that can make all the difference in a similar way to how Salah's been doing it for Liverpool this season. So it's just thinking outside the box a little bit and just try something a little bit different, because we're not producing anything when we've got only one recognised striker who can't score a goal to save his life.
Yeah, it is. It's brutal, but it is true, and the evidence is there. Like we've seen so much. Ahmad, he wasn't in one of the players that you mentioned, Tloua, that you would start with. Do you think? I think he struggled a bit tonight. I thought Cucurella was excellent. Which I don't know, it just annoys me. Just him in general annoys me. The only time I've enjoyed him playing is when they beat England in the final. But apart from that, I don't really enjoy watching him too much. But I thought he was excellent. I thought Ahmad struggled. I think he kind of came into it towards the last 5-10 minutes. But, is that kind of down to Cucurella being on form, or is it coming back from injury, or do you think it's just kind of one of those games for him?
I think it was one of those games for him. I think it was tough for him as well, because it was Cucurella and Colwell who were just doubling up and making it pretty difficult for him to do what he normally does. I didn't put him in the starting 11 only because I feel like in a game like this, he'll be so much more impactful off the bench. Mm-hmm. When Spurs are kind of, a little bit more tired as the game draws on, Ahmad can just come on and boom, impact the game like Tom said. I just feel like in a game like this with Ahmad, I feel like the one thing about United wingers, and this is Ahmad, this is Garnacho, this was Rashford when he was here as well, they're a bit too one-dimensional. And when I say that, I mean they always look to cut back in. We had many opportunities in this game where if Ahmad had just taken his man down the line and tried to put in a cross, maybe we would have had something. But always cutting back in and trying to put it back on your favorite foot becomes very predictable. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Ange is looking at this, I'm sure he sent scouts to the game to watch and see how our players performed. He's going to take notice of that and try and double up Ahmad and kind of leave us in a situation where we have to keep switching to Dorgu. And to be fair, Dorgu, I thought he played pretty well today.
I agree.
He played very well. I think he played well defensively, and going forward, he was very good. It's just a case of, can Spurs play the same way that Chelsea did? I think we've been given a little bit of grace knowing that Kulusevski, Maddison, and some of their best players are out injured for this final. And I think that changes their whole approach completely. I don't think Spurs are going to be able to go forward as well as they normally can, especially against us this season, how they've beaten us 3 times. But going back, I think them bringing in Bentancur, bringing in Basuma and Sarr, that's going to be a lot more industrial. That's going to be a lot more physical than per se having Maddison and Kulusevski, who are way more creative. They're not really working as hard, even though they can. So I think that changes the game completely. I think that puts more of the pressure on us to go forward. And I think we have to. because I don't think we should sit back to a Spurs team that probably will only have one outlet, and that'll be Solanke. I didn't see a whole lot from Son today that gives me hope, or not hope, but that worries me or terrifies me. And he's obviously still coming back into full fitness. So there's a whole bunch of problems on the Spurs side that I think we can exploit. But at the same time, we need to be sound. Like defensively, we need to go forward with intent. Because if we don't, Spurs can always hit us on the counter and then just sit back. And like you said, Van de Ven and Romero, probably the two of the fastest center backs in the league. And it's going to be difficult to try and get past them. So it's going to be a tough game. I don't think it's going to be the shootout that everybody expects it to be. But I think if we're going to win the game, we're going to have to take it to Spurs.
Absolutely. And it shows that we can't sit back and defend. We're also not great at scoring goals, hence the league position. But Tom, second half, a little chipped in ball from Reece James. Our favourite player, Cucurella, comes in at the back post, heads it away. Bad defending or good ball, or what's your take?
It was a beautiful turn from Reece James to put that ball in for Cucurella, wasn't it? It was probably one of the best crosses. It was more like a chip into the penalty area for Cucurella to get his head onto it. But it was a really good finish. It was a very good header, which Onana couldn't do anything about. United got away with one with the penalty, but it wasn't the correct decision when George that went down in the penalty area? When Onana came together. That was a blatant dive. I couldn't believe the referee didn't even book George for that, because from live television cameras, I knew it was a dive. I knew it was a dive from the moment he went down, because there was not enough contact for him to warrant going down the way he did. So the fact that the referee didn't even book him for that is quite astounding. But at the end of the day, we were just simply not good enough in the second half and didn't really pose any threat on goal at any time. I think the only threat we had really was when Ahmed cut back inside on the right on the right wing to get that shot away, which was on target. But it was far from a convincing performance in the second half. Really, I don't think we deserve to be getting anything from that match.
No, I would tend to agree, definitely. Anyway, let's take another great break there, and be back with a bit of something about either Spurs, about United, something there's plenty to discuss.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
There was a podcast out this week. Gary Neville was speaking on it, saying that he would only take Bruno Fernandes ahead of any of the Spurs players when it comes to a starting 11, and that he's concerned for the game against Spurs in the Europa League final. Tloua, do you agree? If you were to pick an 11, who's getting in, who's getting out from a United perspective?
I think that's a bit harsh from Gary Neville, just because I don't think pound for pound Spurs have a better squad than us. I know that a lot of our players are very average. I won't deny that. But we're talking about Spurs who are in 17th. So I think I'd definitely take Ahmed as well. Bruno, Ahmed. That's probably it. Now that I think about it, that's probably it. Because I can't see any of our midfielders besides Bruno getting into that team. I think Spurs, in terms of the players I mentioned, Basuma, Sarr, they're better than the midfielders we have. Let's just be honest. And defensively, as bad as both teams have been defensively, I wouldn't choose any of United's backline. I wouldn't. Maybe a saving grace could be Mazraoui. I thought he's had a great season. Mm-hmm. That'd probably be the only one. So yeah, if I had to choose, it'd probably be Ahmed, Bruno, and Mazraoui. And that's so shocking to say. Not one single attacker, a striker. Not a single central midfielder, if we're counting that Bruno and Ahmed are 10s or wingers or attacking midfielders. Mm-hmm. That's pretty
not
bad.
Not even close to halfway as well. Tom, What do you think? You're contemplating over there in the corner.
I'm just looking at Spurs' players at the moment. Would you not consider having Euro or De Ligt ahead of Romero or Van der Ven? Or would you say those two are ahead of him comprehensively?
They have been out injured for quite a while this year. It is hard to judge them, but as a partnership, I probably would take them.
Yeah.
I was thinking possibly Maguire, considering his recent form. I think his name probably gets a bit more stick than his actual performances. I thought he was actually really good this evening again. But yeah, I mean, it would be a bit of a toss-up, I think. I think Yoro, I really like him. Just in terms of the amount of games that he's played yet, I think he probably has a bit more to prove. But yeah, I wouldn't be fighting for many more, to be honest, that what Tloua has mentioned. And I think even if Kulusevski's fit, I'd be picking him over Ahmad as well. So it's a pretty dire situation to be in, but I think it is the reality considering the results we've had against him this season as well.
Well, I don't know. It's a hard one to say because both teams have underperformed horrendously this season, and they both need to step up from the moment August comes around. But they've obviously got a Europa League final to focus on. But yeah, it's difficult to really come to consensus on which of United and Spurs players would get in the 11 combined 11. I would stick Bruno in there. Maddison, I would stick in there as well, but it just depends on the formation you use. Because what formation do Spurs use? Just remind me, because I'm sure they go.
4-3-3.
Is it 4-3-3 they use? So you'd probably put Maddison and Bruno in the centre of midfield. Would you put Casemiro?
You're going very attacking with the two of them, so you need to have a good defensive midfielder with them as well.
Yeah, I would say Casemiro. Would you put Casemiro or Ugarte in there? Because I'd probably put Ugarte.
No, I definitely wouldn't. I'd put Bissouma.
Would you put Bissouma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I would say definitely Bruno. I think Maddison, if you're going all out. And then Kulusevski on the right, even though I think he's brilliant centrally as well. I think we've spent a whole segment on Hoyland, so Solanke or anyone is probably going up top. And then probably Son on the left.
Yeah, would you stick Brennan Johnson in there? Because he's been one of Spurs' better players this season.
I'd probably still go with Son, but you can put either of them in. They're not. They're both going ahead of Garnacho probably, unfortunately. And then your defense. Then, I mean, Jed Spence, Sudogi would probably go ahead of. Considering Dorgu's played probably 10 matches for us or 15 matches since January. I don't think Porro's that good, but then Dallo hasn't been great. You could argue Mazraoui for right back then, and then I think the keepers is a toss up as well. I wouldn't like either of them. We can put Bayindir in nets or something maybe, but
do you know what's funny?
No, I'm not a fan of Vicario either.
Do you know what's funny? Is the fact that both first and second choice goalkeepers of Spurs and Man United are absolutely, horrible to watch these days. Because do you remember in the Carabao Cup quarter-final when Fraser Forster was in goal for Tottenham?
Oh, yes. I was at this game. Yeah.
Yeah, you were at the game, weren't you? He made two howlers that gave the two United's goals away, as well as Bayindir, who was at fault for two of the goals at least. It just made me think, the Spurs and Man United have probably got four of the worst goalkeepers in the league out of any squad. Forget Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton.
Yeah.
Because you can talk about the team all you want, but it's individuals that we're discussing. Fraser Forster is not the goalkeeper that he was when he was at Southampton and Celtic. And Vicario, I've not really seen enough of him to really come to a conclusion, but it doesn't feel like he's been at it all season long, to put it in those words. Yeah. And as well for us, Onana has not had a good season either, but not everything is on him. And Bayindir, the only match I've seen him play that I would consider was a good performance was in the FA Cup against Arsenal. And that's it. So it's like
I haven't seen a goalkeeper concede directly from a corner since about under 10s, and he's about 6'6", And with his arms in the air, he's probably over 7 foot. And then he jumps, he's probably 9 foot, and it still goes over him into the other top corner. It's just, I don't know if physically that's possible, but it happened. I saw it.
Well, at least David Seaman got caught out in his last ever England international against Macedonia all those years back. I remember that too well.
But yeah, anyway, final thoughts on this evening then. Any standout players? I know, Tom, you mentioned beforehand you were kind of struggling, but anything that you're grasping onto for some sort of positivity going into the next few days? And Tloua, I'm coming to you after, so you need to think of something also.
I'll let Tloua go first on this one.
Yeah, I think it was encouraging that we held Chelsea to a 0-0 for so long, considering we thought that
Is there anything else that is more
I mean, truthfully, that's just how bad we've been this season. Where
yeah,
I'm expecting I thought Chelsea were going to come out and just play us out of the park. So I'm very pleased that we at least held on and actually played well in the first. Well, I say well, but we played decent in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Standout performances. I thought Dorgu played really well today. I've given him a lot of stick. I thought coming in, he was just another one of those signings that we throw cash at a player because we need him. And then he's not really up to the quality that we need. But today, I was shocked at how well he performed against Pedro Neto, who's a very tricky winger. And then going forward, he played well. He tried his best. He was linking up to play much better than Hoyland, which is insane to me, that our left wing back can play 1-2s better than our striker. That's just so mad to me.
Definitely, yeah. And his end product was better today as well. I think
better today.
There was a few times at the start where he kind of was panicking when he got into the final third, but I think he was picking out some nicer passes, one to Mount in particular in the first half. But yeah, I thought there was definitely a bright spark down that side, and probably was doing two people's work, I suppose, because, you know, Mount was very central, so wasn't really giving him much support out on the left-hand side as well. So I thought he great engine all day. Tom, anything else to add apart from keeping Chelsea to 0-0 for some time?
I give credit to Harry Maguire for his performance this evening. I thought he tried to make things happen. It was very unlucky he got the goal disallowed, because obviously without VAR that would have been given as a goal. And and I think he's proven what he can actually do. And I think this season has been a blessing in disguise for Maguire, because this time 2 seasons ago, when we finished third in the league and we won the Carabao Cup, Harry Maguire was one of the worst players in that United squad. But it feels like this season, when we've been performing so poorly, has been an opportunity for him to stand out from the crowd and actually make a name for himself. And this game was another one where he actually tried to make things happen, like he did against Lyon in the Europa League and other matches as well, where he's had a very strong performance in. I think probably the one against Liverpool where he defensively was strong at Anfield. So that's what I would go for. I'll probably go for Dorgu as well. But other than that, there wasn't really a lot to take away from. It's not like there's one... Again, it's not like there's one standout player that has blown me away above the rest. I think everyone needs to improve in the final against Spurs in Bilbao on Wednesday.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to finish off. We'll have, I'm sure, a couple of episodes doing a proper deep dive and a preview into this huge match next week, and we can only stress the importance of it as well for the club and for the fan base and for the players and for the manager and everyone involved. So, lads, thank you very much for joining me after that. That was a tough one, but we move and we have another few days to go until the final in Bilbao. So, thank you both for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.